It could be that the price isn't what they thought it should be. Or maybe they've already done additional research. They've gotten to your page and they're looking at price, and the price isn't where they would expect it to be, or it doesn't match their own system price. And if there's a mismatch to the price that's coming up when they logged into that site, then they're not going to have confirmation and go ahead, so they're going to drop off.
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our number one priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the WBS Podcast. I'm Sam Gupta, your host and principal consultant at digital transformation consulting firm Elevate IQ. Getting a visitor on your site is not easy. Once you get visitors, keeping them engaged on the site is not easy either. But what is worse is if they end up dropping out without buying. Dropouts could happen because of a lot of reasons. It could be the higher price or shipping options. It could also be the checkout experience if the process may take longer time than expected. So how do you control visitors from dropping out? What are the best practices for reducing the dropout? What are the KPIs that matter in controlling the dropout rate? In today's episode, we invited a panel of cross-functional experts for a live interview on LinkedIn who brings significant expertise to discuss visitor dropout strategies for e-commerce. We covered many grounds in this episode, including the causes of dropouts and strategies to reduce them. Finally, we covered several stories related to dropouts, including overly intrusive pop-ups, autoplay videos, unavailability of inventory, or implications of a dependent system being down. With that, let's get to the conversation. Hello everyone, welcome to today's show. For today, we are going to be talking about dropouts. And if we can control dropouts, in case of e-commerce, we all will be making a lot of money. So we want to figure out every strategy out there related to dropouts. Okay, so I am going to start with everybody's intro first, and then we are going to dig right into the topic. Steve, would you like to introduce yourself first?
Yes, thank you for having me on the panel today, and it's good to be here with Eric, Chris, and Jeff, and you, Sam. My name is Steve Rice. I'm the president of .com Jungle and the Globally Conscious Leader, and we help our manufacturing clients make and implement wise technology choices, often in partnership with great people like Sam, if I may say so.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much, Steve. Christina, can I move to you next for your intro, if you don't mind?
Yes, thank you, Sam. Great to see everyone. Chris Harrington, President and COO of Gen Alpha Technologies, and we equip manufacturers and distributors with the tools they need and services they need to sell their products online. We work in the aftermarket, new equipment, and used equipment market. So great to be here.
Okay, love it. Amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Chris. Eric, can I move to you next for your introduction?
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Good to be here again. My name is Eric Landman. I'm the e-commerce division manager for Earthling Interactive. I'm a professional developer. Earthling is an agency that builds web apps and e-commerce sites and content management system sort of sites for quite a variety of markets. And I've been involved in building for close to 60 e-commerce sites for quite a variety of industries, big and small.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Eric. Jeff, can I move to you next for your introduction?
Yeah, thanks for having me on here today. I'm excited to talk about this topic. Jeff Long with True Focus Media, and we're a media marketing agency for manufacturers. So we do a lot of video marketing and product promotional videos. But we also do website development, which includes e-commerce. So I'm excited to talk about dropouts here today.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Jeff. So, Steve, I'm actually going to come to you, and we are going to set the stage. I don't know how many people really know what dropout really is. And some people might be thinking that, we are talking about school dropouts. We are not talking about that. We are talking about the visitor dropout from the website. So now, what are some of the reasons that you have seen in your experience that really caused the dropouts? I don't know if you're going to have any sort of stories that you might be able to share in setting the context, but over to you, Steve.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Boy, there's a lot of reasons that people would drop out, and I'd imagine every listener here knows what they are because they've experienced them, right? And we know what a good experience is, and we know what a bad experience is. So I'd say overarching, a bad experience leads to a dropout. What are the pieces of those bad experiences? They can be pages that are slow to load, broken images, broken links, poorly written content, and depending on your audience, if it's Craigslist, it's not going to matter. But if you have a professional B2B website, it really is. Non-congruent content, stuff that's not related to what you're really trying to do, and non-responsive to different devices. You hop on a phone and it doesn't look good, like you're out of there, right? And then entrance pop-ups, which you don't see much anymore because Google really cracked down on those in the last couple of years. Those would probably be the top ones that come to the top of my mind. So, and then as far as stories, I can tell you, like we've come across clients who just basically had slow websites, didn't realize that their checkout had 5 pages to it, and just by getting them on a better server, adding some widgets and customizations to change the checkout, actually took the conversion rate to 1.75 to 4% overnight. Which resulted in hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales every year and growing. Right. So sometimes it can be quite simple.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you on all of these points that you mentioned. And sometimes things could be as simple as just making your site fast could result into so much sales that you have mentioned. And I have seen sites being super, super slow, at least 80% of them. I don't know how many of them realize that the speed is going to be a major factor overall, even in case of your dropout. And then you also mentioned the images. I don't know how many companies really pay attention to that. But obviously, the congruence is probably going to be one of the factors that you always like to talk about. And I don't know if you're going to have any specific stories related to congruence that you noticed, and then you probably had to improve. Do you have any story related to congruence by any chance?
Well, certainly. And I think one of the stories is a client that had 40,000 products, and they were audiobooks, and they had somebody running audiobook campaigns in Google Ads. Okay. And you'd think that would be a targeted campaign, but we all know American Sniper as a book. Well, they weren't. When somebody was searching for American Sniper or audiobook, they sent them to the homepage, and that's well, I was going to say that's okay, but it's not. It's not okay. They need to go to the American Sniper page. And that would be true congruence. And I think that since I brought up paid advertising, this is one of the things that gets overlooked by companies when they make the case that they should not be paying for their own keywords. Yeah. Because when you pay for your own keywords, you can be really certain, if you're doing it right, that you are driving highly qualified traffic to your landing pages. And you should then be able to say to yourselves and to your team, the high quality traffic at this page produces this kind of conversion rate. So if you have an organic campaign that's trying to do something, that's your benchmark, is your paid advertising and that conversion rate, because that tells you what the quality of the experience could be at its very best. And a lot of companies refuse to pay for their own keywords because they say to themselves, well, I think I'm number one for all my keywords already because I am who I am. Yeah. But you really need that data, I think, in order to have a good benchmark for all of the other marketing stuff that good folks like Jeff Long are going to come along and do for you. Okay, amazing. Thank you so much, Steve, for that. So, Chris, I'm actually going to move to you next. Okay, what are going to be your thoughts overall in terms of the causes? I don't know if you are going to be including any more that you have seen in your space, any specific stories. Do you agree with Steve in competing on the same keyword for which you might already be ranking for?
Well, I haven't done a lot of study on that, so I trust Steve in all things related to that. But what I can tell you for sure is that as we look across our customer implementations, and I did a little bit of that research even before I jumped on here, a big area, because our customers have a lot of SKUs. It's not uncommon for many of our customers to have more than 250,000 SKUs. We have a single customer with 3.7 million SKUs. So when you think about the volume of the SKUs that they have and the level of data they have to manage, that's a lot. And it is only through data that they can start to really refine their product categorization, content, and other things. So what we find is that search is an area where drop-off occurs first. So it's actually the most used area of all of our websites. So customers come in and they start typing the thing that they think to look for. And that's not always what the manufacturer has planned for them to look for, right? Yep. I use a synonym example frequently, like tires, wheel, spare, right? So if you only have wheel and you don't have any synonym or any other way to guide when that result comes up when they put in tire, so that the products associated with you've already defined wheel, there won't be any result, and customers may leave because that's the thing they started searching for. We do find that customers in our world will have old legacy part numbers that they might search for. So this could be a legacy ERP part number that existed in a former manual, and that's the only reference that they have. They come to the site, they enter that into the search, and there's no link from that legacy ERP part number to the new part number. Now, we would always encourage our customers to have that link, but if for whatever reason that was misplaced, that could be an area where there's an error. So vendor numbers, a lot of parts will have a vendor number stamped into it. And they will come and look for the vendor part number because they don't know the actual OEM's part number for that particular. And if there's no link from the vendor number to the OE part number, then that could be another drop-off area where they're just not finding it. It's the only thing they know. So they might try to start putting a description in. Maybe there's too many results for that description and it doesn't help them narrow. So these become some of the things that end up creating drop-off in search. Okay. Now, the next page that in all of our implementations is the most important page before it moves to the shopping cart is what we call our product detail page. So let's assume now that a customer searched, got the page that they were looking for. Now you have all of the information on that product detail page that could be missing to confirm for that user or customer that it is in fact the thing that they need to purchase, right? And that could be no images, right? So Steve covered images or breaking of links and other things. It could be no clear product description. It could be no product specifications. It could be no product recommendations along with that product that really confirms for the user, yes, I've got the right product that I'm looking for. It could be that there's no inventory. So that a particular product that they landed on now has no inventory. And the user needs to know the availability of that product before they're actually going to purchase it. So now they have to pick up the phone and find that out for themselves. It could be that the price isn't what they thought it should be. Or maybe they've already done additional research. They've gotten to your page and they're looking at price, and the price isn't where they would expect it to be, or it doesn't match their own system price. So a lot of companies that we work with, they have customer accounts who have the pricing loaded into their own systems. And if there's a mismatch to the price that's coming up when they've logged into that site, then they're not going to have confirmation and go ahead, so they're going to drop off. So these are some common things that we definitely see. Now, I will say that not all drop-offs are bad, right? You could have, I'll give you an example. We have a customer who just inserted training into their website. So now they have training, And the number of searches for training is significant. It's the highest search item now. But what happens is when you get into training, it says contact customer service. So they didn't load, when the training is available, a calendar for the training. So now there's this contact customer service message, but that's what they wanted. So their first step in this process was, let's make training available, show them what we offer, but then the message is going to be contact customer service. So drop off is occurring every time somebody's searching for training, but that is what they expected, at least for this first phase. So that's an example. I can tell you personally, I drop off of websites very quickly when they want my information. So when there's a pop-up and immediately they're trying to know something about me and get all of my details because they either want to continue to email me or they want to offer me a coupon, and it's the first time I've ever visited. I don't even know if I want to buy from this company. That is typically a turnoff for me. So pop-ups can be one of the areas where, personally, I drop off of websites. So those are some stories that I could think of related to our clients, Sam.
Yeah, could not agree more. I mean, I would not feel comfortable giving my information either unless I really trust the brand and I trust that I am probably going to get something valuable and that I am looking for at this point of time, not in 5 years. So great insights there. By the way, I was not familiar with these many SKUs, to be honest. I mean, I'm actually looking to know a little bit more. 3.7 million SKUs, and that's a lot. What is going on here? Is it because they have a lot of parts that go in the product, or is it just because these are enterprise accounts and that is the reason why they have 3.7 million SKUs?
Yeah, great question, Sam. So it is an enterprise level account that carries multiple brands and they have a single e-commerce customer experience. And within their shopping, they are searching across millions of SKUs that cover all of these different brands that are under the umbrella of that parent company.
Interesting. So how many finished products are they carrying? Just curious.
I don't know the exact number, but on an annual basis, they're probably anywhere from 40 to 45 models per year. And if you look over the legacy of the equipment that they built, if those models change and there's upgrades that take place each year or new product is introduced, but they still have assets out there that are 20 years old, then you have to, certainly you're servicing this equipment for a long period of time. So those SKUs will still be valuable to the user.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's massive. All right. So Eric, I'm actually going to move to you, for your insights. I don't know if you have seen any other causes than they have already covered. Any specific stories that you might be able to share related to the causes of dropouts?
I've got a couple. We have a customer who's a semiconductor manufacturer. They're in Silicon Valley, and their market is the defense and research. So universities, Northrop Grumman, big stuff like that. So they make power conditioners and thyristors and various integrated circuits, and all of these circuits are defined by military specifications.
Yeah.
But as time goes on, military specifications change and they need to retire the part numbers.
Yeah.
The only place these part numbers exist is in PDF files. So if a specifier is looking for an old part number to use in a new component, and the search system on the site only deals with existing products, or that old part number is not in the database, they will never find it, and they will lose a sale. And these could be quite significant sales. So this is not something people think of. They think, oh, they just put a PDF file on the server, and of course it will be found. Well, actually not. You have to have a search system that's specifically designed to search PDF files and return the results in some sort of reasonable format. So I've got a couple other things here too. Switching gears completely, we have a customer who's a radio station in the Midwest, and they have a marketing plan where they sell radio spots, and then to usually it's restaurants or car dealers or usual local businesses. They have a certain number of packages to sell, so they sell really fast, rapid fire, because they put them on sale. And I'm looking at their Google Analytics conversion funnel right now. So, a result of one of these campaigns, they got nearly 1,000 page sessions started. The first interaction dropped off to 344 sessions, and but many of them wound up actually in the shopping cart. So they found immediately what they wanted, put it in the cart. The next thing was checked out. So within 2 pages, they were able to purchase something, which is like a home run. That's fantastic. Then, though, we see, looking at the same analytics sales funnel, there are other people sort of wandering about looking for things. And this can be good or bad. So to address a point that Chris made, depending upon which research study you believe, or you put credence in, some are between 40 and 80% of customers research products before they buy them. That doesn't mean they're dropping off. That might mean they're coming back in a couple days. So it doesn't necessarily mean you lose them. So part of what I do as a developer is to educate my customers about what some of this means, because just because these 1,000 people didn't immediately buy something doesn't mean they're gone at all. Now, that also doesn't mean you should just accept that. There probably are some user interface tweaks or some checkout things that could be, modified or certainly researched. So those are some things that are interesting. I've got a whole list of factors to watch, but we can cover that in the next question.
Yeah, so some amazing insights there, and the PDF one is the classic one. I mean, I just didn't realize that, people were not really keeping their part numbers inside either their ERP system or the e-commerce system. So I need to know a little bit more about these parts. Are these really throwaway parts that these companies are utilizing only for the estimates? And is that the reason why it is residing only inside the PDF files?
Oh, no, these are old part numbers that have been retired in the particular military spec that references that part for whatever reason. I don't know why. Maybe the batch system or inspection system is outdated, or I'm not sure what. Some of these could be 15 years old. You put up a communications satellite.
Yeah.
You're not going to do that every day, right? Or every year. So that specification that denoted that part, if that part was retired, the only place that part number would be listed is in that PDF file, because 15 years ago, they didn't have a website with that data in it. So, you can't just assume everything is always online.
Yep. Amazing insights there. Thank you so much, Eric, for that. So, Jeff, I'm actually going to move to you. So, what are your thoughts so far in terms of the causes of dropouts? Did these guys miss anything? Have you seen anything else? Any stories?
Yeah, just a couple things I want to add, and obviously all amazing stuff here. I love being on these because I learn a lot from the other people here. I think a lot of it can be companies, especially ones that are highly technical, can make some assumptions about their customers that could be way off, right? Chris mentioned like what they're searching for. I mean, it could be even the flow of what happens when a customer comes onto the website, where they go first, and just making some completely wrong assumptions so that when they get to the end point, they're way off of where their customer would naturally want to be. So that's been huge. I know we worked with a company where, for whatever reason, they had some like internally, they made up some names about some of their products and stuff that was only really meant internal. And then over the years, it got kind of projected externally. Well, nobody's Googling those terms. So even though the company was using these terms and in all their marketing, all their website and e-commerce, and they kind of meant something, like nobody was searching for these because the industry had already decided what the terms were, and this company wasn't large enough to redefine these terms industry wide. So once we kind of saw this, and I think it took an outside perspective that we kind of caught, I was like, wait, what are you talking about here? And it was like a light bulb went off, and they were like, oh, maybe this is why, we've been having some issues with whatever. So again, and that can happen with highly technical products and parts and things where maybe your customers aren't on the same wavelength. Maybe they're highly technical, but just in a different way. So that's kind of my number one thing. And then, like I said before, most of these e-commerce sites that we work with, I mean, there's a lot of SKUs. It takes a lot of work to update content descriptions, photos, videos, links, recommended, related product, all of that. And sometimes companies don't have the bandwidth or the focus to be able to do that, or the time or the budget. So it's hard work. I feel bad for our clients and companies. I mean, they have a lot going on, and this technology thing can easily explode in their face and be a I don't know, a burr in their saddle. I don't know why that example came to my mind. I'm not like a cowboy or anything, but so there's a lot of complexity, and I know everybody here on this call knows all too well that complexity.
Yeah, exactly. And it's going to be even more complex when you might have, let's say, dropouts, and you cannot really figure out why those dropouts are happening.
Yeah.
So obviously, this is a lot of work. There is no question about that. E-commerce, any technology initiative is probably not going to be easy. But then, obviously, you are looking for an autopilot that is going to produce a lot of money for you in the future. So you need to invest a bit as well. Okay, amazing. So, Steve, I'm actually going to come to you in terms of, any strategies that you have seen working. Obviously, now we know the problems that actually cause the dropouts, but what are some of the techniques that you have seen? And if you are going to have any specific stories that you might be able to share to resolve some of these issues.
Yeah, I think in an unfortunate way, the solution is to pay attention and look hard at some of the stuff that you're not used to looking at. You've got to use analytics to identify high exit rate pages and high bounce rate pages. And I want to make sure everybody knows the difference. A bounce rate page where somebody shows up, lands on your page, and leaves pretty quickly. Exit rate means that they were on your website, went around, poked around some places, and then left from a particular page. And bounce rates are not included in exit rates. So if you have somebody, if you're driving a bunch of traffic to a blog page, as Chris pointed out, and a lot of people read that, and you don't have an extremely large bounce rate, but it's a really big exit rate page, that might not actually, to her point, be a problem. What you've done, let's say you have a 20% bounce rate instead of an average 43 for the rest of your website, which is not atypical. Then you've just captured the sort of the brain of somebody for the 3 or 4 minutes it took to read that blog post. So having it be an exit page and not a bounce page is not necessarily a bad thing. But once again, back to your question, how do you find these things? You kind of got to look for yourself. There are tools as well at your disposal, but nothing beats going to look at your website on your phone and saying, "Oh, that's why everybody on the phone that uses it on a phone, never scrolls down, because they have to make 3 scrolls to get to the buy now button or something like that." But there are other tools that you can use, like Hotjar is a great heat map tool that plugs into Google Analytics.
Yeah.
Google Analytics stopped supporting their own heat map stuff, 3 or 4 years ago. As much as Chris doesn't like pop-ups, exit modal pop-ups are pretty effective, at least in gathering some information from some set of people who are willing to say, "Yeah, I'll give you my email address. I know I'm leaving. I think I'll be back, but you're going to give me 10%. So yes, I'll give you my email address." It's just another way to manage the volume of people who leave without coming back. So there's a number of tools like that. Even inside Google gives you Google Tag Manager, and you can create actions. You can make your analytics inside Google Analytics more informative by creating actions that people take and measuring them more easily. And it doesn't have to be a conversion. It could simply be clicking to download a PDF or something like that. So once again, just like looking at analytics, actually look at your pages, use heat maps, try and find where you would be annoyed. And most likely that's probably where you're annoying your customers.
Okay, amazing. There's some very interesting insights there, and especially about the exit and bounce rate is just phenomenal. I don't know how many people really know about that or how to read these KPIs. So thank you so much for sharing that. And the Google Tag Manager is also very interesting. Do you want to provide some more colors into that in terms of for people, especially if they might not be familiar with how to utilize that? And what is going to be the relation? Let's say if I have a bunch of pages and I have, let's say, the bounce rate problems, how am I utilizing my tag manager to be able to effectively optimize my bounce rate?
Well, in that scenario, you might not be using Google Tag Manager.
Okay.
You might actually be using something like Hotjar to figure out where people are clicking.
Okay.
But if I've had clients who had actions that weren't being recorded on a page correctly. And that's where you would use something like Google Tag Manager to create an action that it sort of get posted into the database for people to see inside analytics. So I'm trying to think of a simple action that you might do that for might be to download a PDF or something like that. So that download actually can get reported as an action rather than in a different area of Google Analytics. It's going to show up somewhere, but it might not actually show up there. In fact, sometimes a PDF will show up as that page being an exit page when in fact what they did is they went to your PDF that might be stored on a different server. So sometimes you can use Google Tag Manager to make sure that things are being measured correctly in that sense.
Yeah, I actually have a story of Tag Manager. As a developer of our product, we do have Tag Manager implemented for some things that we want to measure. So I think you were searching for an example, and I remembered one of the ones that we implemented, and that was that when people come in and they look at a bill of material for a specific serial number, that takes them to a page. But within that page, they can search across, through the bill of material. What you wouldn't see in Google Analytics is how many people use that search. We can put a tag on the search and then have that action be measured. So we know, are people searching within that bill of material across all of the different pages that our bills of materials exist. So it's a great tool for measuring something that you can't see, but you have an assumption that it's being utilized. And maybe it's not. Maybe they don't see it. So you might have a design change that you want to make. Those are some of the reasons why we've triggered Tag Manager for things. So that one came to mind, Steve, as you were talking.
Yeah, that's a really good example. Thank you.
In the past, we talked about conversions, and we think we get a little too focused on sales, but there's a lot of things that are valuable to companies, which we call conversions. And some of those other things might be filling out a contact form or getting a hold of a sales rep in my territory, or like the HubSpot model, you've got a form to fill out to get some sort of white paper. Those are all conversions. And you can use Google Tag Manager to attach that to the submit button to see how many people actually submit that. Now, you probably have other ways to find that out too, but seeing it all within Google is pretty helpful. So you can look at how many people got to the page just through analytics, but then you can also see how many people converted by actually filling out the form and submitting it. So that's a good Google Tag Manager example.
Okay, so it sounds like, you can go probably deeper into the page level insights, and you can group the activities that you are trying to group to be able to make sense out of it. Steve, I don't know if you're going to have any other examples where you have seen it being used, but are you aligned with the kind of examples that Eric and Chris mentioned for the usage of Tag Manager?
Oh, those are perfectly good examples, great examples.
Okay, amazing. So I'm actually going to come to you, Chris, with respect to the strategies that you have seen in reducing the dropouts. Any other thoughts with respect to what Steve has already mentioned?
Yeah, so I do think it's really important to analyze where your exit pages are occurring. So I can tell you that when we have seen high exits, for example, in the checkout process, assuming the checkout functionality is clean, to go back to Steve's earlier point, we have found that customers might not find the payment options that they're expecting or the freight options that they're expecting. And then they drop out because, and they're not converting. So those are some challenges that you need to look through or ask your customers if they end up calling you. And typically they place an order online, or if you're trying to get user adoption of the site, have your people talk to customers to try to uncover those reasons. Sometimes it just does take going through the same flow, putting yourself in those customers' shoes and saying, why would they have dropped off here? I will say, to go back to my earlier talk about search. So within Google and Google Analytics, you can go to behavior, site search, and search terms, and you can see all of the search terms that your customers used in a period of time. And it'll give you the exit percentage on those search terms. So now you can look at, what are my customers searching for? And they have no result. Go see what, your highest exit rate search terms. Go check in your e-commerce site and look at it. What was your result? And does it help you understand why they might have dropped out? Now, it might be a solid dropout, right? They got their price and availability. They saw what they needed to see, and they're fine. It could be something different, that search term doesn't exist. There's no result, and that's why they're dropping off. Now you need to understand, what would that search term have been? Can I come to some conclusion about that, what that could be, so that I can fix it? So it really does take diving in. Steve talked about mobile, so checking how the performance of your site on mobile devices and across different browsers, speed, links breaking. Are people bouncing at a higher rate? And I know we're talking about exit strategies here, but if they're also bouncing on a certain browser, that could be that browser has an issue. And sometimes the only way to truly understand it is to go check. I use Chrome all the time, but if Firefox is causing a problem on certain pages, I need to install Firefox and go check it out, see what it is. And that's the work that we're all talking about here. So it really is putting yourself in the shoes of the customer, like we talk about so often, and first using the analytics data to say, here are a couple problem areas. It could be pages. It could be these search terms. It could be, it could be on that product specific page or many. Take your top 10, try to fix those, and then go to the next 10. So if you hit the heavy hitters first, fix those, hopefully it'll lead to conversion on the next search or that next look at that product page.
Okay, so amazing insights there, and I really like your bit about the percentage. That's super, super, super important. And the bounce rate, the solid bounce rate you also mentioned. I don't know if the solid bounce rate is going to be similar to the exit percentage versus the bounce rate that Steve was mentioning. Do you want to clarify a little bit more where they all correlate?
Well, I mean, somebody could bounce right off your page, and it ultimately is still an exit. It just is the first page that they came to, and then they left. There could be a problem with the entry point in that specific browser that caused them to leave right away. And again, it could be because of broken things or something's not working. I'm not really clear on all the bounce versus exit type things, but I do know it's important to look at your high bounce rates and your high exits and see if you can understand what's going on there.
Well, I was actually reminded of one of the better examples of use of Google Tag Manager. Chris reminded me of it, if you don't mind just stepping back to that, which is that with the advent of one-page checkouts, when you have somebody bounce from your checkout, it's always the same page because there's just one checkout page. And you can use Tag Manager to change each individual. I'm gonna refer to it as a web app, but it's not really that. But each little section is kind of its own little web app: ship to address, billing address, credit card, and whatnot. And so if you can use Tag Manager to know that somebody filled out shipping address, filled out billing address, and maybe didn't finish doing checkout because they didn't like your credit card options or something. So that's just an example of where Tag Manager can be used to create more relevance in your actions that you see in analytics, and not just rely on the default analytics, which will just tell you that somebody left that page. You're not even sure what they were doing.
Yeah, that's a very interesting example. And Eric, I don't know if you had any comments in between. You had a comment, right?
I do, yeah. In fact, it's really common for users to come to checkout pages and want to know how much shipping costs. Well, some systems don't allow you to check the shipping cost until you until you get all the way to the very last step. But so if you see the Dropouts, like the last steps, and you have all like 4 things going on there, it's like, well, how do you figure out what it is? So we can do exactly that. We can attach Google Tag Manager to the little form that lets you enter your zip code, and you click Show Me Shipping Rates. If that's the last thing they did, well, that's a pretty clear indication that you got a problem there. I also want to point out, again, as a developer, websites don't always work all the time 24/7 with no problems. We've had spates of weird stuff going on where some shipping platform goes down for 20 minutes, and then it comes back, and so you see a little blip of drop-offs there, and the marketing manager goes, "What's going on here?" It's like, well, then we check the logs and we find out that, oh, that's right, this platform had a problem. A lot of those outages have been pretty high profile. Also, there can be weird things that happen with hosting. Most major e-commerce sites are hosted on multiple hosting containers, and it's possible and actually distressingly common that some of those hosting containers, the content gets corrupted and they degrade, and then they are replaced automatically. If your customer hits one of those things, they can get weird stuff going on, like style sheets don't load, or your browser freaks out, or the content's all hacked up. These are technical terms. So, that can enter into it too. You can't just always assume everything's going to work, because it doesn't.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So do you want to share your thoughts about, different strategies as well?
Yeah.
What have you seen? Did these guys miss anything that you may want to add?
No, that was great information. I would just look at, well, the key for sure is some sort of analytics, and preferably with Google Tag Manager and Hotjar, because you can drill down exactly to the page or even the little piece of the page where somebody left. I would also look at things like session duration. Like, has this user, have they sort of wandered around the site a lot, or did they hit a category, add something to the cart, and then they stopped immediately? Maybe the shipping was the last thing they looked at. I would look at all those kinds of things. Also, I would look to see if there's any errors in the code. Sometimes there are race conditions with JavaScript, especially in checkout, where something's loading and something else is trying to load, and they need to be loaded in a certain order, or you don't have valid data. I'm sure everybody's experienced this situation where they go to a website, maybe they enter their address, maybe it's doing some sort of address validation lookup, and then it starts to fill in the shipping, but then it comes back and says, oh, your address is not standard. You need to use this post office version of the address. So those kind of things can really confuse users, rightfully so. Checkout's pretty confusing as it is. Those things are really hard to detect because there's no actual error thrown, but it can still screw the works up. I would also point out that sometimes problems are introduced by changes in content. Like somebody goes in and modifies the content of a particular product, and half the page disappears. Well, maybe they entered some invalid HTML, so you can see people dead ending to that page. And you go, what's going on here? Then you look it up yourself. You go, wow, half the page is gone. So I have definitely seen that problem more than once.
Okay, some very interesting insights there related to checkout, and obviously the content is a big problem as well. So thank you so much for sharing that. Jeff, I don't know, do you have a comment? I am actually coming to you.
Yeah, a couple things. Obviously, we've been talking a lot about like the technical side and user experience, but I think even user expectations have changed, right? I mean, with Amazon and other big platforms, we're just used to seeing video and images and reviews and just some of those things that are common on the B2C platforms, but not necessarily on all the B2B platforms. And so since my company does a lot of video stuff as well, a lot of it is, product videos, product demos, product install, safety, setup, you name it. And so customers are expecting that. Now, obviously, when you have hundreds of thousands, millions of SKUs, like what Chris said, that can be a logistical challenge, to say the least. But again, customers expect more information. Video is kind of one of the top dogs. I mean, I remember it's probably at least 10 years ago, Zappos was hiring gobs and gobs of video production crews, all internal, to just, film their shoes and their products and all that, just to get more visibility and more kind of eyes on the different angles of their products. So even though we work with a lot of technical, industrial, manufacturing, military, products and companies that serve those, users expect more. They expect more media. They expect just more visual, more wow. And that can be really challenging. So because of that, if a website doesn't have that, they might be a little more inclined to leave.
Yeah, completely agree. Users are definitely expecting more. And in fact, I mean, see, I am going to have to disagree a little bit with, Chris. So Chris mentioned that her biggest turn off was the pop-up. But for me, the biggest turn off on any website is going to be the auto play of the video. You play the video automatically, and I am really out of that.
Agreed.
Okay? I don't know whether you guys feel the same, but video could be a great contributor in my experience of the dropout. So I don't know if autoplay is going to be the only factor. I'm pretty sure there are other factors when you incorporate your video strategy as part of your website, because video is such a complex object. It can fail at a lot of different places. So Jeff, have you seen anything related to video where you have seen people leaving?
Yeah, I think autoplay video sound primarily. I mean, yeah, it's like who want it. To me, it's only the news organizations or people that are like forcing their attention, like look at me, but the user doesn't want that, so that's terrible to say the least. Yeah, nobody likes that.
Yeah, and I would add that when you're in an environment where you're sharing space with multiple people, now that's not as common anymore, but it obviously still exists. When that autoplay is on and the volume's on, people are looking for, how can they click out of there as soon as possible, because now they've disrupted the environment they're in, or they think people's eyes will be on them, or they might be perceived as doing something wrong, all of those things. So those are great points about not having the video turn on automatically.
And I think you can see best practices in play on LinkedIn and on your phone when you're swiping through the New York Times. You will see videos that are playing with captions and the audio's not on.
Yep.
And it's actually, certainly compared to like having the audio just pop on all of a sudden, it always scares the bejesus out of me. It's actually, for me, a comforting experience to be able to see that video, see some of the words and go, oh, I might actually be interested. Because the other alternative is to have the video playing without audio and not know. And so that's the best practice right now. And I think we've come as a community, both the developers and users, to appreciate and use that. And so we see it a lot.
Well, we talk about assumptions, right? I said earlier, like companies make assumptions about what their customers are doing. I mean, I've been producing videos for 19, almost 20 years now. I don't really ever read captions. I'm not a captions guy. I could take them early, I don't. But I did a survey, and I've read other statistics that like captions are tremendously beneficial, not just from an SEO perspective, not just from a language barrier or whatever, but people just like, I guess, reading videos. I'm not that guy, so I'm making assumptions that are wrong. And so it's easy to do, is my point, is to make those incorrect assumptions.
I got a comment about that too.
Yeah, go ahead.
Here we are in the United States and Canada, for some of us, and we are making the assumption that this is an English-centric solution. But, there's an awful lot of foreign language speakers around that are trying to learn language, or they're struggling, or they don't quite understand what you're saying, or you're from East Texas, and I'm going, what did he say? So I think captions are great. I like captions.
My reigning theory is that with the advent of the Nordic noir crime TV shows that require captions, and we all watch them, and they're horrible when they're dubbed. That's why we like captions now. Is we can thank the Norwegians.
Yeah,
I completely agree. I absolutely love captions, to be honest, especially on LinkedIn. It just makes it so easy to be able to read those. And I don't know if anybody has done any sort of studies as far as the bounce rate goes on the product videos. So obviously, in case of social media, the captions are amazing. But I don't know if anybody has utilized these for either the product videos or the educational videos and compared the metrics. I don't know if any of you are going to have any stories around that.
I don't have any hard data. I would imagine it would be somewhat similar. That captions are great, but with language, globalization, that's something to put a lot of emphasis into, is the translation of those captions as well, is to be concerned about.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much, Jeff, for that. So, Steve, I'm actually going to come to you again. I don't know if you are going to have any sort of horror stories that you might be able to share related to. I mean, we can probably only take short stories. We are not going to take very long stories because we are, close to our time. So, any sort of horror stories related to dropouts and the bounce rates.
You caught me. I tried to actually Google how effective captions are in videos, and I couldn't get the answer fast enough. So we'll save that for the next show.
That was a bounce. That was a drop.
Definitely
from Google.
Definitely. But the horror stories are many. It's easier to build a website that isn't that great than it is to build one that is great. It's hard to do, and I think it's also difficult for those of us who are in business to actually even understand our own brand sometimes. Yeah. So I've seen scenarios where a company didn't even understand their own brand and had branded themselves in such a way that they came across as so antiseptic that none of us would ever want to buy their product, and every one of us needs their product. So one of the horror stories is coming across a company like that who kept saying, I don't understand why we can't get consumers to buy our product. And we looked at their website, we looked at their branding, and said, well, pretty much it looks like you're selling it to really, really rich hospitals and doctors. And that's about it. So yeah, you get it. It's not just the technology, it's the user experience, it's their perception of you. Think about Patagonia. If they doubled the price of their jackets, they'd have a perception problem. And if they halved the price of their jackets, they'd also have a perception problem. It's their job to provide value at that price. And if they do that right and they give you the right sort of corporate culture and feel, and you feel like you're fit, you're going to come back for more and you're not going to drop out. And that's what every company's got to be thinking about, who their ideal customer is and why they would even, like, just like your friend. Why is your friend going to stay friends with you? Are you going to be a jerk? No. So figure out, if you're a business, don't be a jerk. Figure out how to be nice to your customers, give them what they need, and service them.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much, Steve. Eric, did you have a story as well, or comment?
Just the only thing is helping customers understand what really matters. Just because people are dropping off doesn't mean necessarily that they're losing out. They might be revisiting. So use analytics and whatever data tools you have to focus on the things that are worth focusing on and changeable and fixable, and don't worry about the other stuff. There's a certain amount of people that will just visit a site and go away because they're just bopping around all over the place.
Yeah, completely agree. Understanding of your customers is obviously going to be critical, who you really want to retain and who you don't want to retain. Chris, you have a comment story?
Yeah, I was just thinking, most of our, what I classify as horror stories, really come because we're a developer and maybe we didn't attend to the performance of the site properly. And this is more in the earlier stages when we assumed something would work, and then you turn it on and the loading time is not where you would want it to be from a performance perspective. So now you got to make a change to make sure that the speed is there. So as I think about stories, it's really, as a developer, we have to find those things before our clients do, so that it doesn't lead to the drop-offs. Sometimes we miss some things. It gets to the client and there's a problem, and then it gets back to us and we have to find creative ways to solve for that. But I definitely think that certainly occurs when there are so many changes happening in e-commerce today. So it's an iterative process. I guess I would just put that out there. And it's important to correct those things as you see them. So usually they're on our side, and we have to correct those.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much, Chris, for that. Jeff, do you have any, stories, horror stories that you have seen?
Yeah, I mean, last couple things. I don't want to reiterate too much. I think it's also looking for ways to serve the customer better. So even simple things like a live chat or ways for the customer to ask questions or get the feedback, get the information that they know. My parents were both lifelong educators, teachers. So like, how can we teach our customer and help them get the knowledge they're looking for? So a lot of times when I'm, talking with companies, those are some of the questions we have. Yes, from a technical perspective, we want to have, the right code and mobile responsive and all that, which is a whole animal, as we know. But we also want to have, the right tools for the customer. And so, and I've found some companies on the smaller side can be resistant to a live chat or things that they think will take more of their time. But it's like, well, the customer is either going to bounce or call you, or you're either going to lose a sale or they're going to bug you in some other way. So let's find slightly more automated or convenient ways for that customer to get their questions asked or answered. Excuse me.
Okay, amazing. I completely agree. Thank you so much, Jeff, for that. So now we can only take the closing advice. Steve, what is going to be your closing advice?
Look at your analytics and even ask your customers. Call them directly and find out what they like and don't like. I think that's something we don't always do. We forget that we use analytics maybe a little bit too much and don't talk to people who are actually poking around with the mouse, especially B2B companies.
Yeah, completely agree. I think there is a little bit of art and science to how to interpret the data, and that comes with the experience. It's not easy, okay? You can't simply go and learn everything about Google Analytics in a day. So thank you so much, Steve, for that. Chris, what would be your closing advice?
Yeah, I will just repeat that not all drop-offs are bad, right? These tools are used as self-service tools, and they're really to support customers in getting the information that they need quickly. Not everything is going to lead to a transaction or a conversion or that sale. So if they're able to get to the information they need quickly, that could be the drop-off. They got what they needed and they could be back, but not all drop-offs are bad, and that's why it really is important to make sure that you have goals for what you want users to achieve on your site, and maybe it would be very logical for them to drop off at certain points.
Yeah, could not agree more. That pay attention to the specific drop-offs and see why that is happening and find out if it makes sense to really retain them. Otherwise, it's better to probably have that. I don't know if that is going to affect the analytics, but thank you so much for that insight. Okay, Eric, what is your closing advice?
I would just realize that there's more than one thing that can be recorded as a conversion and track those and become a bit more sophisticated about how you look at these analytics tools. Use analytics, first of all. But a lot of people still don't. Get on the bandwagon here, people.
Completely agree. So either become sophisticated or hire somebody who is sophisticated.
Yep.
Don't try to pretend to be sophisticated. Okay, thank you so much, Eric, for that. Jeff, what would be your closing advice?
Sam, I'm going to piggyback off something you just said, and it's a book called Who, Not How. So instead of trying to figure out how can we do this internally, reach out to some of the experts, the who's that are already doing this at scale, and dive into their expertise. I mean, the people on this panel are obviously in that group. So who, not how is my recommendation.
Okay, amazing. Love it, guys. Thank you so much, everybody, for your time and insight.
Thanks for having us all, Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I cannot thank our guests enough for coming on the show, for sharing their knowledge and journey. I always pick up learnings from our guests, and hopefully you learned something new today. If you want to learn more about Eric Landman, head over to earthlinginteractive.com. It's EARTHLINGINTERACTIVE.com. If you want to learn more about Christina Harrington, head over to genalpha.com. It's GENALPHA.com. If you want to learn more about Steve Rice, head over to .comjungle.com. It's DOTCOMJUNGLE.com. If you want to learn more about Jeff Long, head over to truefocusmedia.com. It's TRUEFOCUSME dia.com. Links and more information will also be available in the show notes. If anything in this podcast resonated with you and your business, you might want to check other related episodes, including the interview with Steve Rice, who discusses why congruence is the most important factor to optimize product category architecture, navigation, user experience, customer journeys, and campaign design. Also, the interview with Dave Meyer from Busy Web, who describes how marketing automation works and why that is important to understand customer journeys. Also, don't forget to subscribe and to spread the word among folks with similar backgrounds. If you have any questions or comments about the show, please review and rate us on your favorite podcasting platform or DM me on any social channels. I'll try my best to respond personally and make sure you get help. Thank you, and I hope to catch you on the next episode of the WBS Podcast.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.